الله أكبر الله أكبر.
The zakat is on the kinds of wealth that all year long our activity is to make it grow. It's not the static forms of wealth. Zakat is like a haircut. The way the classical fuqaha described it, they said it's a payment on growing wealth. Al-mal al-nami.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, brothers and sisters. Welcome back to the ELM Podcast Ramadan edition. Alhamdulillah, we started the ELM Podcast roughly a year ago, last Ramadan 2024, and now we are in Ramadan 2025. And inshallah, this Ramadan we have 4 podcasts that we have recorded. Alhamdulillah, today is the first podcast that we are recording with a special guest, someone who I really look up to. Alhamdulillah, you know, mashallah, tabarakallah, he's doing amazing work, especially in the zakah field. And that is none other than our Sheikh, Dr. Suhail Hanif. Hafizakallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah, Sheikh.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. And I look up to you very much as well.
Jazakallah khair, Sheikh. How are you doing? You okay?
Alhamdulillah.
Jazakallah khairan for making time to be as part of the ELM podcast. Alhamdulillah. I understand that, you know, mashallah, tabarakallah, you're a very busy person. So I really appreciate
it's an honor and pleasure to be here with you.
Allah bless you, Sheikh. Alhamdulillah, we want to introduce something new to the ELM podcast, and that is just to kick-start the podcast to get our guests to feel comfortable, inshallah. We have flashcards, as you can see, inshallah. So what I want to do, Sheikh, is, if you don't mind.
And it's all hidden from me. What's on the flashcard?
So the first 5 cards, inshallah, if you can pick them up one at a time and answer the questions, inshallah. Hopefully it's not too controversial.
He tells me I'm going to find the zakat questions easier than this one.
Bismillah. Let's go for it. Okay.
Question 1, tea or coffee? It's a hard one, actually, because recently I'm getting more into tea again.
So you were.
So I'm going to say tea.
So you were a coffee fan, though?
Well, I'm not a big on any. I can survive easily without either.
Okay.
But I'm going more towards tea nowadays.
Okay.
That's the bottom line. I'm not a connoisseur with coffee. I can do instant coffee. It's absolutely fine.
MashaAllah. Okay,
Yeah.
so we know that you're a tea fan, inshallah. Green tea or chai wala?
So the baseline is green, but my new interest is in cardamom-flavored black tea.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I need to try that. I've never tried that. Alhamdulillah. So that's the first question, inshallah. I'll move on to the next one. Bismillah.
Right, we survived that one. Minshawi or Husari? That's very interesting, but it has to be Husari, I think. The very slow Husari, the Mad Tawil Husari.
Okay.
That seems like something from the afterlife. Like it's something very grand.
Yeah, so people have that preference of Husari. I think it's good for Hifz as well.
Yeah.
Those that are memorizing Husari. And I think Minshawi is more of a... It depends on which maqam he's reading, I guess.
Yeah.
I think I'm more of a Minshawi Nahawan kind of guy.
No, Sheikh Ali, my teacher, he used to say Husari, in the Tajweed world, he used to say Husari is fabulous.
Yeah.
And Minshawi, it's like he came from heaven. Yeah, he had a phrase that he would quote. So no, yeah, a lot of
fun.
Yeah, but just my time has been more with.
Alhamdulillah. Barakallah fik, inshallah. Let's move on to the next one. Hopefully it's a zakah question.
One Islamic figure, past or present, who has inspired you the most? It's very difficult, that one, because I've gone through stages to say there's a particular figure. In terms of my intellectual journey, it might sound cliche or something, but through the people I've been working with, I am genuinely trying to imbue and understand the method and the approach to being and thinking and society and religion of Imam Abu Hanifa. There's no doubt about it, but it's through figures and very important figures for me. Probably the most single one might be Al-Imam al-Sarakhsi, actually, because of his influence on the Bukharan tradition, which has been very key to me. And there have been other figures as well in various moods I have, but I'll probably stop with that.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. No, I think when I asked this question to Sheikh Sajid Umar, he was like, that's an unfair question.
Yeah.
You know, you can go back and think of so many different figures, alhamdulillah.
It's moods and phases as
so,
well.
Yeah.
It's not just, you know.
Yeah, alhamdulillah. And I think if you're in the mode of studying, you'll be thinking of someone studying a specific science, then you'll think of someone.
And when life gets tough, it'll be some pious figure.
Yeah, if you need some emotions, you get Ibn Qayyim in there, you know. Alhamdulillah, barakallah feekum. Okay, Sheikh, I think how many is that? That's 3 down.
That's 3.
2 to go.
Okay. It's the one that you warned me of.
Favorite cuisine? Is it ikhtilaf?
I think my mum would tell you I've always eaten what was presented to me.
Regardless of its
I
cuisine.
didn't have what we call nakhre in our language. But for some reason, automatically programmed is dal chawal.
Okay.
Not that I would always go for it with other stuff there, but it's a baseline of a very good, wholesome food I've had growing up. Lentils and rice, which Arabs don't understand why you'd have rice with lentils, because for them, lentil is a soup.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
So they get very confused when they see a Pakistani having rice and lentils.
Wow. You know, talking about that, dal chawal was a special dish that we used to have in madrasa every Friday.
Okay.
And students would be, dal chawal, it's a dal chawal day. Because it is a famous Gujarati dish as well.
Okay. Not everyone makes it fabulously.
So that's true. So it goes back to the cook. MashaAllah, tabarakallah. I guess your mum, mashallah.
But it's a particular mum's dal chawal that's on my mind.
Allah bless her and preserve her.
Ameen.
Last one, let's see. Zakat
Last
question,
one.
Ya Allah.
Mujawwad or murattal?
Mhm.
So this is about speed of people listening to.
Yeah.
It's very interesting because I'll have to also be honest that I didn't go strongly into the Quran listening phase
Okay.
for various reasons. I think when I was growing up, there was all this thing about don't listen to Quran and do something else. So then it was, I didn't have it in the background while driving or while this or while that. So I'd say as a phase, I didn't go through it properly. But because I favored al-Husari ala al-Madd al-Tawil, then I'll have to go for the Murattal one.
Okay. Did you have a phase where you were listening to Mujawad? Or?
I haven't had many phases. This is what I've
Yeah,
said.
okay.
There was a bit I was listening to Shuraim to help me in my hifz.
Okay.
That was quick.
Okay.
That was Taraweeh recordings. You know, I tried a little bit of Muhammad Jibreel.
MashaAllah.
But yeah, may Allah be pleased with them all. But yeah.
Barakallah feekum. Okay, alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khairan for that, Sheikh. Alhamdulillah, that's the flashcards, we can say, done. Now I have some personal questions, inshallah. Alhamdulillah, I've been following your work with National Zakat Foundation, and before that as well, mashallah, tabarakallah, you know, you've done a lot, and may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala preserve you. So I really want to dig deep into your, background, in your education background, where it started, where you are now in your journey, where do you see yourself in the future, inshallah. I understand these questions sometimes can be very personal, and, you know, Mashaykh, mashallah, they want to hold back, but inshallah, it'll be nice to just, following you along on your journey, inshallah.
That's it, just open.
Open up, inshallah. Bismillah.
So the journey in sacred knowledge.
When did it start? At what age?
When did it start? The most important single event was at the age of 17.
Okay.
I attended a Rihla course, they were called.
Okay.
But Rihla normally means to go to like Morocco or Damascus. For us, the Rihla was to Nottingham.
Okay. From London to Nottingham.
Yeah, that was the big Rihla.
Okay.
And there were some very influential teachers who left a strong impression on me about sacred studies, about traditional learning. And in many ways, that experience set the map for what came afterwards, basically.
Okay. So at 17, you started your official journey in seeking knowledge. Were you doing private studies, or was it like a formal setting?
So this Rihla, it lasted for a month.
Okay.
I did the Rihla in 1996,
Okay.
1 month.
Okay.
I did the Rihla to Nottingham again,
Yeah.
1997.
Okay. Mashallah.
I did the Rihla again, this time to Fez, 1998.
That's France, right?
That's Fez in Morocco.
Oh, Morocco, subhanAllah.
And in between, I actually was almost doing self-study. So I learned, I can't put it into words, but most of the Arabic I learned through self-study in those 2 years.
Really? Okay.
2 to 3 years.
Okay, mashallah.
Because we learned like grammar and dictionary in those intensive courses, and it was just self-discovery.
Yeah.
So that whole period of my undergraduate degree, which was in computer engineering, which I never worked in,
Allah
and I can't help you
now
if
I'm just
you've
thinking,
got
subhanAllah.
computer problems. Don't ask me. But in that period, I was just doing my self-study of memorizing hadiths and trying to learn Arabic and so on. So by the end of it, I was fairly comfortable with unveiled Arabic text. But it was this self-grammar-led study is how it basically happened.
So where did your interest come in when it comes to zakah? I know that, of course, mashallah, you're part of National Zakat Foundation. Where did that come about?
So that's just, if you like, a microcosm or a subset of my interest in fiqh. So my interest in fiqh has been, I think, from the beginning, But there was a very particular second journey in fiqh, I guess I had, which started around 2008, 2009, with the scholar who was at ELM just yesterday. So it just started a rethinking about how a fiqh study is meant to train us in reasoning and thinking, and how to apply that thinking back to the law to understand what is the law. So that's been an ongoing journey for me. And zakat is just one of the most fabulous, important, impactful, foundational institutions of the sacred law. And in one sense, NZF has been important in that journey, because I heard about NZF while I was still in Jordan. I was in Jordan for about 12 years. And just the word landed, and I thought, yeah, that sounds right. Because it meant something to me in my fiqh journey, that we should build something. It's an institution. It's local. It's the beginning of a foundation and leadership for the community. So just from the beginning, just the name landed, and it started a journey of thinking for me.
So how long have you been with National Zakat Foundation?
So been with is strange. Like in a relationship, how long have I been with someone? It depends on how these whole things start. So in one sense, I've been with it since it landed.
But officially,
because I knew the first Iqbal, the CEO, because he had come to Jordan to learn Arabic. So I'd known him before NZF started. Then I came to the UK for my PhD, and I've been here since then for just about 12 years now. So in 2014, I spoke to the team. I said, your work is very important. In 2015, I worked part-time in research and development. That's during my PhD. I did that for a year and a half. Then in 2020 on, I was invited to advise the board on Sharia-related matters. And I started my current role 2021. So it's been in a sort of a relationship since 2014 in different ways.
Okay, so alhamdulillah, that's mashallah tabarakallah. I can see that alhamdulillah you have had that journey since many years now. It's coming up with 10 years or so with NZF. Moving on, Sheikh, I think the main discussion that we want to have today is actually revolves around zakah. In the month of Ramadan, as you're aware, that many people, they want to give their zakah in the month of Ramadan only because of convenience. So we as imams, we're always getting asked questions. We're actually, in the month of Ramadan, especially in the East London Masjid, we're bombarded with questions. Basic questions, sometimes a bit more in-depth questions. So I think what I want to do is, inshallah, of course, alhamdulillah, I have you with me here today. I want to just have a discussion on some zakah-related questions so that hopefully the audience, they can benefit. And because sometimes visually watching something and getting that benefit, and nowadays, as you know, podcast is the way forward. So I thought, let's talk about zakah, a few things, some simple questions and maybe some controversial questions, inshallah. I'll throw at you, inshallah, Sheikh, and then we'll have that discussion if that's okay. I think the first and most important thing that I want to ask is, what is zakah? I think that's the basic. What is zakah and what is its significance in Islam?
Okay. That's a very big question. And I promise you I'll try and keep my answers very, very brief.
Lughatan wa
Yeah, exactly. Because lughatan is really important.
Yeah.
Because lughatan, in the lexicon, zakat is about purification and growth. Yeah. So it starts right there, which is that wealth gets toxified when it gets held somewhere. Like food held in the belly, there's a toxic element that has to be expelled to maintain the wholesomeness. So the whole image is wealth is a blessing from Allah, but rights, there are rights that get established in this wealth, and you have to get the wealth out to its rights holder every year, and that maintains the blessing, the wholesomeness, and the growth of wealth. So why is it important to start with the lexicon, as you've correctly reminded me before we went anywhere else, is that the giver is the initial and first beneficiary of zakat. We're not doing the recipient a great act of charity from high to low, but it's that the holders of wealth have a desperation, that this blessing, they have a duty to maintain its wholesomeness, its goodness, its utility. So they need to find people who will receive from them this payment through which they purify and maintain the whole. So so the power balance is quite different. It's closer to equality, or maybe you could even say the poor person is on top. Because without the poor person, then the wealth is not blessed for you, basically.
So it's a purification process as well for a person's wealth and a person's own self, as you mentioned. So it's tazkiyatul mal, tazkiyatul nafs. And those are the two elements that have zakat to it. So when it comes to zakat, of course, every year everyone's given zakat, and the basic thing that we know is 2.5%. But it's not that simple as well. There's a bit more detail when it comes to what you're giving zakat on, etc. And of course, in Ramadan, people are giving the zakat, and there's so many different areas, businesses, someone's wealth, someone owns gold. So I think there's a couple of questions that I would like to ask. The first thing is, what is the threshold for zakat currently, and how does a person figure out the threshold?
Yeah, thank you very much. So before we go into that, we can almost say, well, what types of wealth is zakat on?
Yeah.
Because we sometimes call zakat a wealth tax, which it isn't. It is not on all of your wealth.
Exactly.
We might sometimes think of zakat like an income tax, but it's not based on income. And so there's no clear equivalent to what kind of a burden zakat is on wealth in these normal terms. The way the classical fuqaha described it, they said it's a payment on growing wealth. Al-mal al-nami. The Hanabila call it mal nami as well. The wealth that grows. So I always use the example, zakat shouldn't feel like you're losing a hand and a foot, because then you're going to run away from zakat. Zakat, for those people who've been blessed with hair, zakat is like a haircut. Because what happens is, when a person who's blessed with hair...
I don't have hair either. I'm just covering it.
I see hair under the hat. What they do is, you get your hair cut, you look nice today, and you don't feel any pain of the hair that's gone because there's more coming. So zakat is on the kinds of wealth that all year long our activity is to make it grow. It's not the static forms of wealth. And so what are the wealth that we're trying to grow? There's various human economies. There's animal economies. So the animals are what we're trying to grow. So there's zakat on animals. Agricultural economy, it's the produce we're trying to grow. So some zakat on produce. In our economy, which I call trade and services, the only thing everyone we ever meet, anywhere we go, is trying to grow is money. That's it. Because in a trade economy, you're holding the medium of exchange is the measure of your wealth, your ability to buy and transact. So that's what makes it really easy. Zakat is only on money for us. If we're not farmers and animal herders, only on money. And what is money like? And so I like to start with a basic list of 4 items, which are only money or money-like, which is money, gold and silver we'll come to, but the idea is, historically, these have always been the stores of value in trade economies. So money, gold, silver. And the last one is trade items. Trade item is anything you buy to sell. Not a personal good, but I bought it to sell it, because for me, it's just a store of money. So if we say zakat is only 4 things for us, money, gold, silver, trade items. We'll talk about the fancy things later, the shares and the funny stuff, but just the basics. Now the question comes, how much do I have to have? طبعا فيه قولان. So how much do I have to have? What you do is you add them up, all of your money and your gold and your silver and your trade stock, and you subtract anything you owe other people. And the final number, if it's above a Nisab minimum threshold, then you are a zakat payer. That minimum threshold, our Prophet ﷺ, he determined it for our trade economy in terms of gold and silver. 20 gold dinars, 200 silver dirhams, which were of the same value in his time, ﷺ. But over time, silver greatly devalued, relevant to gold. So the equivalent value of the silver nisab today is in the space of like £400 approximately.
Silver.
The nisab, if you measure it in terms of silver. And the nisab, if you measure it in terms of gold, it's almost £5,000. It's like almost more than 10 times.
Okay, so it's changed.
Yeah, and so now we have to decide what makes you a zakat payer. Is it when money plus gold plus silver plus trade stock is more than 400?
Yeah, or is it more?
Or is it when it's more than 5,000 or 4,500? So what I've found in the non-subcontinental Hanafi world, I mean, the Turks, the Hanafis of the Levant, the Hanafis of Iraq, they all prefer to use the gold nisab, generally speaking, because they say silver's too low. It's not a meaningful differentiator between being rich and poor. So if you see, I'm talking Hanafi parlance because that's the community that we're sitting in primarily, not to make it more complicated. If you go to like a Hanafi of the Arab world or the non-subcontinent, they'll probably say it's about £4,500 nisab. In the subcontinent, most of our scholars that I've seen typically still prefer the silver nisab on the premise that it means more zakat gets paid, it means more people get helped, and it means we can focus on the people in great need and lift a baseline out of poverty. National Zakat Foundation, our basic premise is to base our fiqh on local knowledge and local practice. So our website will talk about the silver nisab, but you'll find both on the website. Going back even 20 years, you can put any date you want and get the nisab, so you can make even past calculations. It's a long answer, I'm sorry.
No, it's very interesting, alhamdulillah. So, so now, as you mentioned, of course, in the Arab world, they could be looking at it from gold, and then non-Arab world, they will look at silver.
It's very anecdotal, but in my experience, you might get two answers.
Yeah. So, fihi qawlan, as we say. So, you would say in UK, we should be inclined more towards...
It's not for me to say should be or shouldn't be. It's for me to simply say, if you ask National Zakat Foundation, we advise on the silver nisab because we found that that's a strong local position and we'd like to build our fiqh based on local scholars. As a giver, you're most welcome to research the question and they're both strong and to follow the one that you feel most comfortable with scholars that you trust the most.
So, you mentioned about the 4 types of wealth that zakah is on. So you mentioned about gold and silver. So I think one of the questions that we always get asked, and I think for those that are newly married, they always ask this question. My wife's been gifted gold. It's worth £8,000, £9,000. Do I have to give zakah on it? Does my wife have to give zakah on it? How much do I have to give? What if I don't have the money? Just in a summary, how can we answer this question?
Yeah, so National Zakat Foundation says we normally base ourselves in our education on local knowledge, and that's normally we follow the Hanafi school.
Yeah.
In this one question, we normally teach both, and we let people understand that's how we teach it. So if I just went it this way, all scholars agree, as far as I'm aware, gold and silver have zakat on it. But where they debated was if it's jewelry that's worn.
That's right.
Because if it's jewelry, in fact, I'll ask you to clarify my understanding. If it's jewelry that's worn, then it's more like a fixed asset. And it's less like a growing asset, like money is. And you don't do zakat on clothing, so you shouldn't do zakat on jewelry that you're wearing like clothing. The scholars of the Hanafi school, they said, well, actually, gold and silver always maintain their money like property on proof that I can be anywhere on the planet and I can liquidate my jewelry on a fair market, on a fair price, not like any other second-hand good. Second-hand goods, they devalue greatly, and there's different types of markets, right? Gold and silver is a very clear, safe market all over the planet. And that's why women were given these gifts upon marriage, because it's like the deposit account. If things go wrong, you have good money on your ears, you can do something with it. So it is money-like in conception and in practice. So they say even if you wear it, there's still a zakat duty on it by virtue of what it is. Only gold and silver, not other metals, and not precious rocks. It's the property of gold and silver. And then on this, we say that you only owe what a jeweler would give you, not the bullion market rate. So a jeweler would give you a bit less. So in our online calculator in NZF, we automatically calculate this for you in the calculator. And then who pays for it? That's a marital question. I can't tell people how to manage between themselves. But the husband could do the favor to the wife and say, honey, I'm covering it. Don't worry about it. The husband could say, wife, it's not my gold. It's not my job.
But he has a right to say that.
He has a right. But that's for them to, I'm not going to go there.
So what if they, of course, what if they don't have money in their account, but they got gold? All they've got is gold. What do they do with it?
A couple of possibilities. So first of all, and I know scholars have debated about this as well, but in principle, and certainly in the Hanafi school, you can tell me about what the other schools say, is zakat can be given in kind. It does not have to be given in zakatable wealth. So in principle, if you have any item of value, which we do, clothing, and people give clothing away sometimes, if you can evaluate these items on their market rate today, not what you bought them for, your laptop, your phone, your clothing, what's it worth today on the market? You can give it as a gift to somebody who's zakat eligible, and it counts as a zakat payment. This is the first thing. You don't have to liquidate gold to money if you have other items of wealth. That's the first thing. The other option is, yes, you should liquidate some of the gold and get the money and then pay the zakat from the money.
Jazakallah khairan. Allah bless you, Sheikh.
Amen.
Okay.
Wa iyaakum.
I think the next thing I want to move on to, again, I think it might be a very simple question, but again, we do get asked this. So, of course, we've got the Nisab threshold when it comes to zakah. For example, if it's £500, for example, and someone has £10,000 in their account, and sometimes people look for loopholes, as you know, with zakah. So they're like, okay, so do I give zakah on £500 because that's the threshold? Do I give it on £10,000? I mean, the funny thing is, I get asked this question quite a lot.
Yeah.
Because people are trying to look for loopholes. So how would we answer that
Even it's not even the loophole. Sometimes it's just the wealth that has grown over the years. So they say that if I started with my savings at a balance of 5,000,
Yeah.
and I ended with a balance of 7,000,
Yeah.
only the 2,000 was new. So that's what I should pay on. So people have a lot of thoughts about this. The good thing is that the answer is very easy. It's just all of it.
That's it. Right.
So what we care about is the asset class,
Mhm.
meaning on the date, we haven't discussed the date, that's the hardest thing to teach actually. But on the date that your zakat is due,
Yeah.
what do you hold
Mm.
in the asset class of money, gold, silver, trade stock? If you hold it, you owe a zakat on it. It doesn't matter when it came, when it went, what you started the year with. It's very easy. The answer is this is the what we teach.
Inshallah. Jazakallah khair. Then let's start with the start date now, inshallah.
That's harder. Why is the date harder? Because first of all, Islamic sacred law works typically, primarily in the lunar calendar. It's about 11 days shorter than the solar calendar. Zakat is paid once in the lunar calendar. Our scholars say, why is zakat paid once in the lunar calendar? It's to give you a full year and 4 seasons to realize growth in your wealth. So you got a full year, do what you got to do.
Then see
At the end of the year, we're going to take some away for the poor.
That's it. Yeah.
So it gives you a while to realize growth. The other advantage of this calendar-based giving is it makes the calculation very easy. You don't need an accountant. You don't need a spreadsheet. You don't need to record when the money came, when it went throughout the year.
Wait till the end of the year. Then.
Just on your date, add, subtract, pay. Next year, on the date, add, subtract, pay. During the year, don't worry about it. Just carry on with your life.
Yeah.
So this idea of a once yearly payment is to make calculation easy. It's to make the whole process easy and manageable.
Yeah.
The only tricky thing is, when is the date? Why is this tricky? It's because ideally, we are all meant to have a personal date, not a shared date. And the personal date is based on our economic story. When you first went above the Nisab in your adult life, you were meant to note the date and start the clock. And then 1 year later on that date, if you're still above the Nisab, you pay. And you do that every year on that date. If you go below the Nisab on that date, you don't pay. You wait till you next cross the Nisab. That's your new date. You write it down. 1 year later, you're still above the Nisab. That's your date. So it's a very personal date about when you cross the Nisab last. It could be for some people have inherited wealth when they're kids. So when you hit puberty, that's your date. For some people, it's your first job after university. First paycheck, if it's a reasonable paycheck, that's your date. For some people, if you're a businessman, you do boom, you do bust, you do boom, you do bust. Then it's the last time you went from bust to boom. That date is your date. So you have to do your best, jog your memory, look back and think, well, what should my date be? You won't get it 100%. Get it 80%, get it 70%. Do your best, that's your date. Then it might not be Ramadan. And you just, what you owe is calculated on your date. If you want to pay over the year, you want to pay in direct debit, it's fine, but that's your date. If you are incapable of doing that for whatever reason, then you can pick one arbitrarily, and people like to pick Ramadan. So it's tricky because people are actually meant to choose a date. And as you learn about this later in life, it gets very difficult to go back in your life and do this. If you teach people when they're young, it's not a complicated topic.
MashaAllah. Okay, Sheikh, what you mentioned in between that, I think there's another important question that I'd like to ask. That's regarding the Nisab threshold. So sometimes, of course, you have, say, for example, someone calculated from Ramadan to Ramadan. They made that their date. That was in Ramadan, they got their first paycheck. Okay, and so they calculated, and then throughout the year, they didn't have enough money in their account. When do they start the new date again? Okay, is it after they go above the threshold, or does how do I word this right? If they go down to 0, does that mean khalas they start again, or does it mean that as soon as they go down the threshold, they start again? How does it work?
Okay.
Because this is a question that we do get asked.
It's a difficult question
Yeah.
because the scholars had a few differences in how they thought about the hawl.
Yeah.
So if I keep it simple, on the school of Abu Hanifa, if you go below the Nisab threshold, that in and of itself is not consequential. If it's during the year, as long as you are above the Nisab at the beginning and at the end.
End of the year. Khalas.
Yeah.
Jeez.
The only thing they said was if you hit literal 0,
That's
then you restart. The advantage of this approach is it prevents you having to calculate your worth every day of the year.
True.
It makes it a thing you just calculate once, because the goal of the fiqh is that everyone should be able to do this. You've been to school, you haven't been to school. You live in the city, you live in the village. It's something that's practicable for everyone. And so this approach is easy because you never have to do anything except once in the year that you calculate.
Yeah.
But scholars had a few views about this question.
Jazakallah khair. So the giver of zakah, if they are owed money, 5 years gone, 10 years gone, again, these are questions we're always asked. 5 years gone, 10 years gone, how do they figure it out? Do they give it straight away? Do they wait till... I would like you to shed some light on that.
It's also a little bit of a tricky one. The answer is easy, but maybe in the practice it's a bit tricky. So the way it works in answer is that if you've lent money to somebody, that's still your money, and you're waiting to get it back. They might be subtracting it from their zakat burden because they owe it to you.
Yeah.
It's your money. It is not in your hand right now.
Yeah.
So we say money that's owed to you through a loan, this is where it gets tricky, that you're expecting to receive back. Expecting to receive back. So if the person says, get lost, I'm never giving it to you. You're not expecting it. If the person says, money, what money? I don't know what you're talking about. Prove it to me. I can't remember. Do you have it? Did I sign something that I owe you money? So if it's like that, then forget about it. It's like gone.
Yeah.
If the person actually pays you back, it's like a new gift.
Yeah.
Because you didn't have really the expectation that it's yours.
Yeah.
But if there's expectation, there's no denial, there's no reason why it's not coming back to you, it is your money.
Yeah.
And the other thing we say, if it's money from a sale, like you sold a trade item and you're waiting for the payment, this is your money.
Yeah.
So in these two scenarios, and now your zakat date has come. So the date has come and you're expecting the money.
Yeah.
So we say you do owe the zakat on that money because it's yours.
Yeah.
But because it's not in your hand, then you have two options. You can either calculate it and pay it anyway.
Yep.
Advantage of that is once the money comes, you just put it away and carry on with your life. The other option you have is maybe that's burdensome. Maybe it's a large loan that you gave someone and it's burdensome to pay for it from your money.
Yeah.
So then your option is you don't pay, you just wait. And then once you receive the money, you pay the zakat from it.
Yeah.
And then you can put the money away.
Yeah.
So let's say you lent the money for 5 years.
You're 5 years.
So you either pay the zakat on it each year and you don't have it. And once you receive it, just put it away.
Yeah.
Or you do no zakat of it. And once you receive it, you got 5 years worth of zakat on it to pay.
That's probably more burdensome for some.
That's why it just depends on the situation.
The main thing is that you have these two.
But there is a burden, a zakat burden in that money.
Okay, Sheikh, and I know we're very tight with time, and this is a very, very, interesting discussion. I think I'm benefiting more than the audience, alhamdulillah. There's some contemporary questions that I'd like to ask regarding zakah, if you don't mind. So, student loan.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so students, of course, they go to university, and we know the whole debate about whether it's halal, haram. I think that's a different discussion. So now, student, he takes a student loan. It's a few £1,000s. It's above the Nisab threshold. He doesn't work at all throughout the year. Does he have to give zakat?
So the way we say it in our advice, it goes back to another question, which is about long-term loans. When I'm in debt to somebody else as a payer, for example, I've got a multi-year mortgage, multi-year car repayment plan, or student loan, which is a long-term repayment item. In all of them, what we advise is you only subtract from your calculation up to 1 year's worth of repayment. Meaning, what are you expecting to pay back in that zakat year?
Yeah.
That's what you can subtract in your calculation. You can't subtract all of it because A, you are legally protected. No one's going to come demanding all of that money this year.
True. Yeah.
And B, if we were to say subtract all of it from your zakat liability, we'd end up with a situation where rich people don't pay zakat and poor people pay zakat. Because the rich people, the Donald Trumps of the world, who you never see their tax returns, they might own mansions, they might own hotels, they might own islands, all on loans. So when they do the whole, if they have to subtract all of their loans, maybe they're the poor people on the planet. And the people who can't afford a mortgage, who are just getting by on rent, maybe they're the only rich people left. It's the absurdity of a debt-based economy. That's the problem. That's why many muftis, they say you can't subtract the whole thing. It just inverts zakat.
Yeah.
And there's legal protections. It's not the kind of loan where they're going to come beating you up tomorrow for all of the money. It's not that kind of a loan, that kind of a burden. So subtract up to a year's worth. So back to your question on student loan, it's then what realistically are you paying back over this next year?
Yeah.
Subtract that from your calculation.
And
the rest is your money. And then you calculate your zakat burden then.
Interesting. Alhamdulillah. Okay. Inshallah, we won't prolong this conversation. I know, Sheikh, you're very busy, but there's a lot of things I would like to ask. And I think maybe off the podcast, Sheikh.
You're a very good company. I'm happy to
Allah
sit with you.
Jazakallah khair. Moving to the recipients of zakah, I think that's again another discussion. Since we were talking about student loans, are they entitled to zakah?
That's a tricky question.
I think I'm asking all the hard questions, Sheikh. I'm really sorry.
No, it's perfect. But it's tricky in terms of, many questions of Islamic law, there's a spectrum.
Yeah, 100%.
So you've hit another spectrum on the head. And what is this spectrum? Zakat recipients fit into a few possible categories. For some scholars, all of those categories are types of poor people. So in other words, if a student is rich, why on earth should I give the son of some
100%.
millionaire who's in university, give the money?
Yeah.
He should ask his dad in the first instance.
Exactly.
Well, that's complicated. We'll we'll come back to that. Because an adult teenager is an independent economic agent as well. But the point is, being rich and being poor is the most important criteria, not being a student versus being something else.
True.
And for some scholars, no, being a student could be an independent reason. We don't have to look at your wider situation. So I'm saying that's why there's a spectrum on some of this. In the Hanafi school, the person has to be eligible through a measure of being poor, basically.
Yeah, okay.
And National Zakat Foundation, that's what we only follow. So we'll assess someone for being below a threshold of wealth.
Yeah,
and then there might be students, there might not be students. But so this is the actual marker.
I see.
As opposed to the being a student.
Yeah.
But I will point out there is a threshold.
Yeah.
And it might be worth exploring.
Yeah.
Because I know in the later Islamic periods, even some Hanafi scholars said a student should be given zakat even if they're rich. Why? Because they were primarily talking about students of sacred knowledge. And they were talking about it within the frame that this is someone who's freed themselves up of all earning capacity to learn sacred knowledge. If we're not facilitating this, there's going to be a problem socially. So even this particular legal school had people who said later in time that students of sacred knowledge maybe deserve an exception. So in some circumstances, it might be worth exploring the wider spectrum.
Yeah.
But if you want the straightforward answer in practice that we give, National Zakat, it's no. Being a student is not effective.
There's a measure.
It's your economic worth at that moment is what measures your worthiness of zakat recipient.
There are certain places in the world that adopt the former opinion,
Yeah.
isn't it? Okay, that's fine, inshallah. Jazakallah khairan. Okay, inshallah, Sheikh.
Yeah, okay.
I'm going to ask just one more question. And I think this will probably be a funny question. SubhanAllah, it was actually on one of the groups a brother asked, and I thought, this is interesting. Let me add this to the podcast, inshallah, so people can benefit from it. So as we know that there's loads of bake sales that go on. That's right, isn't it? Bake sales. They sell cakes and they say 100% for charity, 100% profits for charity. So now they're selling the cakes, and whilst they're selling the cakes, they're eating away. It's a nice Matilda cake that they're eating away from. Okay, but if it's 100% profit, how does that work? So I guess it is a funny question.
Somebody somewhere is eating somebody's profit.
That's yeah.
This is the mystery we
Yeah.
have to figure out. All we have to figure out in this thing. Okay, let's look at this from a few options. Okay. Imagine I'm baking these cakes from my own. You know what's coming to my mind is, do you owe zakat on the cakes?
Okay,
Do you see? Is it a trade item?
I see. Okay, so if it's from a shop,
Because if
then,
I bought cakes only to sell, then that's actually zakatable wealth. It's money in another form.
yeah, that makes sense.
And then if my zakat date comes upon me, and there I am with the cakes I bought to sell, I actually have to give zakat on the value of the cakes.
True, yeah.
That's just the thing to keep in mind. And it might not be. It might be my personal flour.
Yeah, made it
I
myself.
just cooked some cakes up.
Yeah.
Not me, but somebody else who has this skill set.
Not me either. I can't cook. I don't even know how to boil an egg.
Me and you would be eating the profit of these people.
That's what I'm talking about, probably myself.
So if it's for my own thing, I baked up the cake. I don't owe any zakat on the cake. When I say, and obviously your question's assuming it's the profits will be zakat, I'm assuming, as opposed to charity for the time being.
Yeah,
So if we say the profit is, I'm claiming, will be 100% go to charity, and in my intention, it's my zakat that's going to the charity, then the zakat is what I owe. It's not in the cakes.
Okay.
So if somebody ate the cakes, all it means is there's less profit.
That's it. Yeah.
So I'll just have to add more money from somewhere else to pay off my zakat. Has somebody done a criminal act in eating the cake? It all depends on the permission of the cake owner.
Okay.
That's the bottom line. Yeah.
I think we can really look and explore that. That
Yeah.
could be another contemporary mas'ala of zakat, alhamdulillah. Jazakallah khairan, Shaykh. Wallahi, I actually would like to ask another 100 questions today, but time is very limited. Maybe we'll have to do another round.
Inshallah.
Post
Absolute honor
Ramadan,
and pleasure.
we have to do another round, inshallah. But Jazakallah khairan, Shaykh. I really appreciate it.
I'd love to hear your thoughts as well. Maybe if we talk next time
we benefit
on
from
these
you.
questions.
We are the Tuwailib, we are
No,
the
no.
smaller students that benefit from Mashaykh like yourselves.
Right.
Alhamdulillah, may Allah bless you and accept all the
Ameen.
work that you're doing. And inshallah, hopefully we will have another podcast after Ramadan. With that being said, inshallah, that is the end of today's podcast, and we will see you all in the next episode, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.